It's gotten quiet, so I guess we could start. Hey, thanks for coming today, everyone. We'll try and stick to the points and give you guys a chance to ask questions. Hopefully we'll give you enough information that'll be helpful and you will have questions. So we'll start by introductions. We have a few things on the agenda. We're going to talk about our council that put this together, the process, the plan, and the accountability, which I think you'll find interesting. We're hoping that we're able to demo the product that we use for this today. So we'll start with introductions. Miss Jaime.
Okay. I'm Jaime Dalton. I work in our president's office on campus. I'm executive director of University Affairs, and strategic planning falls under me.
Hi, and I'm Angela Neria. I am the Associate VP of Technology and CIO at Pitt State. So we'll start out by talking a little bit about Pitt State. I think you guys, most of you probably know a little bit about us. So we are located in Southeast Kansas, Pittsburg, Kansas. We are a four-year regional university. We have about 6,000 students and about 900 employees, and we have four colleges, the College of Arts and Sciences, Business, Education, and Technology. So we're located down in the southeast corner of Kansas, and you guys get to come visit us next year. We're very excited to be hosting Check next year. We're learning from an amazing group of experts here at K-State this year. So that's where we are. That's a little bit about our size and scope and all of the offerings that we have. We offer everything from associate's degrees to doctorate right now in nursing. So how this all started, and when we began looking at a new way of strategic planning, really came about when we got a new president. So we have a new president, Dr. Dan Shipp. He came to us from University of Nebraska, Omaha, but he's been lots of places. Is he Iowan or Nebraskan? He's a Nebraskan, but he's been at lots of places and has gained lots of good experiences and ideas in those places. And when he came to us, he really was eager to learn about not just Pitt State, but the Pittsburg community. And he had been involved in a similar type of get to know your place experience at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, through his president. At the same time that he came, and I'll explain that in a minute, at the same time that he came, we needed a new PSU strategic plan. We had one in place and it had just expired. Our president that was retiring felt like it really was something that the new president needed to be a part of and take on. He didn't want to put together a strategic plan and then say, hey, new guy, here you go, or hey, new girl, here you go. So it worked out perfectly that ours was expiring as we were getting a new president. So he came in and he said, I really want to learn about Pitt State. I want to learn about the community. I want to learn about KBOR and understand what this is like, because the way that we are governed in Kansas is different than what he had experienced at his other places. So he asked us to come in and really share. And he asked people from across campus, the community, KBOR members to come in and share. He wanted us to share areas of strengths and weaknesses that needed to be explored and give this council that we're putting together in this framework the opportunity to do that. So we discussed a lot of things and it was very open. We did lots of brainstorming, shared new ideas, etc. So that's kind of the background for why we even took on this new way of strategic planning. And then we'll get into the guts of how we did it. So we started with a council, and that council was called the Transition Advisory Council, or the TAC Council. And it was made up of a diverse group of students, faculty, staff, and then PSU partners, people from our community, KBOR members, etc. And we had sessions. The council met very regularly for one academic year. We had 19 different sessions that covered 19 different topics. And so every time we met, we went over 2 programs, and we met for 2 or 2.5 hours at a time. And a group would present for like 40 minutes, and then we'd have brainstorming sessions, take a quick break, and then present. Next group would present and have brainstorming sessions. And so those programs ranged from everything from, technology to the city of Pittsburgh. It was just everything you could imagine. So Dan really took that all in, but it wasn't just Dan taking it all in. Everybody that was a member of this council was taking all this information in And I think all of us that even that have been there for a while were like, whoa, I didn't know we did that, or I didn't know that, because we weren't that deep in the weeds in these other places across our campus. So it was very eye-opening to everybody that was involved. How many people were?
We had 70.
70 people on this council met 19 times. Yeah, every week. And Jaime coordinated that. Lucretia, I don't know if Lucretia's in here, but she was also a part of that group. I was a part of that group. It was very eye-opening. I think everyone that would say that was a part of it would say that. So the process looked like this. Each area shared their mission, goals, organizational structure, points of pride. But here was the hard part. We also shared our points of pain, and we got into those points of pain in front of 70 people. It was difficult. It was a look in the mirror, and it could be difficult at times, right? Because you're showing things that you don't want to necessarily show and talking about things that you don't necessarily want to talk about. But Dan was really clear that if we're going to get better, we got to look at all the bad stuff too, which is so true. So if you've been a part of a SWOT analysis, it felt a little bit like a SWOT analysis, but it was probably a little bit less formalized. I think there was a lot more room for brainstorming and discussion than a traditional SWOT analysis. So after each session, the council discussed, we brainstormed, we shared thoughts, and we did all of this on Post-it notes. And I don't know how many Post-it notes we used. A lot. And so Jaime and her team kept every one of those Post-it notes, and they recorded every one of those Post-it notes so that we could come back and look at those and make decisions about the strategies for the university in the future. The other cool thing about this was our marketing team created a very transparent TAC website. So after every single session, the presentation, oh my, I'm sorry about this, K-State people, I'm causing damage here. The presentation slides were posted to this website. We send out a weekly, at least weekly, sometimes it's a daily newsletter on our campus, and our marketing team would really hype up whatever happened that week in TAC and really push people to that website to take a look. And I don't know if other people got this, but I did get a lot of people email me after our session and say, can you tell me a little bit more about this slide? People that weren't a part of TAC. And I want to understand this more. And a couple of people even asked if I could come to their department and explain a few things, which was really awesome. I'd never been asked to do things like that before. I never thought people cared about the guts and the background. But they do. There are some people that do. So we do have, and we'll share these slides to anyone that would like, and we do have a link to that website. It's out there and it's still alive today. It's all connected to our strategic planning process. So President Shipp then identified trends found in the documented Post-it note feedback that Jaime and her team collected. And those trends were posted throughout Russ Hall, which is where the president's office is, where Jaime lives and the president lives. And it's also where we have lots of students pass through. So you're walking through the halls, and Jamie's going to show you a picture of this in a minute, and seeing all of this information from these Post-it notes that were collected. And then all TAC members, all 70 TAC members were given a certain number of dots. And you guys have all done this if you've done a SWOT analysis. And we went and we spent time with all of that information, and we got to use X number of dots to pick our priorities and kind of lay out what we thought was most important, and all that data was gathered. So I'm going to turn it over to Jaime as I move to the next slide, which I think is actually a picture of what it looked like. These are two of several walls in Russ Hall.
Yes. Yeah. So those are alcoves just outside of our office. And then we also utilized our conference room. We basically just needed that amount of space to be able to put up everything that had come out of the process. We had a lot of people say they should, if they knew Dan was coming and knew how into stickies he was, they would have invested in Post-its. Because we have used a lot of all sizes, you could see, and then the little dots are just the little Post-it dots that people were, I think, given 20, if I remember right, just because we had so many topics to cover, given 20 to go through and pick their top 20 priorities. And if they thought one was a priority and nothing else was, they could put all 20 on that if they wanted to. So side note, Dan is now also actually our acting dean of our College of Technology at the moment. And for the specific reason that we have just completed the same process with them this semester. So now comes the next steps with them. But it's been that was a question they had frequently of, well, what if I want to put dots on several things, or what if that's skewed? And I'm like, no, just put your dots where you want to put your dots and we'll take care of the rest. So a lot of questions about that. So what emerged from that, and we again are just really lucky to have Dan that's been through this process before, because none of us had. And even seeing 70 people, not just from campus, but from the community. Our foundation was represented, our alumni board was represented, and they came every week for 2 hours. So you know how you can tell if people are interested, they come, right? So they kept coming every week through that fall semester. And then through that, we developed a mission and goals and design principles. That became a document that we then had a bunch of town halls throughout the spring semester. That included the same group that had already been meeting, and then it was open to all of campus as well. Students, we met with students. So just getting feedback on, hey, here's where we've landed. We want this to look like PSU. Dan, throughout the entire process, said, we could hire consultants to come in and give us a strategic plan, but we want this to look like PSU. We want this to specifically say, this is Pittsburg State University when someone looks at it, to be a little bit different. So it was important to get everybody's feedback. And that's what he would say to them in the town halls is, give us that feedback. Tell us if this is right. And as it says up there, we had 18 different drafts of that document, and it would come down to wording. We found out that people don't like the word fail. I don't know if you guys experienced that, if you've ever checked on your campus. That is not a popular word. And Dan is very big on try something. Like, we need ideas and let's try it. And if it fails, we turn around, we go a different route. We tried, we learned something from that. That's how we grow, right? We all know that internally, but nobody likes to use that word. So we ended up taking it out because we didn't want people to be uncomfortable. But that's the kind of feedback we were getting. So it was down to certain word choice, which was very interesting, but people were very invested. So this is what it looks like. Thankfully, our marketing team can put things together much better than I can. So they took a little Word doc and made it look like that. But you can see kind of laid out our mission. We wanted to keep it very simple, that it would just roll off the tongue for everyone. And it is to make life better through education. That is our mission, period. So then obviously the vision and the design principles and the goals were built around that. So then obviously we needed to get to the next step and narrow it down a little, broaden it, but narrow it in actual getting to work and having measurable items. So our cabinet, which is our leadership group of 10 people on campus, then took those goals and developed strategies from within their areas and beyond that they thought could help for the whole campus. And then as a cabinet, we went through those, made edits to those, and then we again had town halls. So this was a very immersive process, very time consuming. But it was really important to us, especially with a new president, that people felt very invested and felt that they were heard. So then from there, our leadership team, which is 40 people from our cross-campus representation, took it and created initiatives for their areas, basically. And that is how that has all worked. We did include as what's called labels in the system, the KBOR pillars, because we wanted to be able to identify how our goals were, or how our initiatives were relating to those pillars. So that's part of it. So this is an example from Angela's team of what that looks like. So the initiative obviously is up there, and we don't have to read through it all, but kind of just wanted to give you the example of what the visual was. We asked people to submit them and show them on paper, basically, to develop and brainstorm and work with their teams before we had the actual software, because at the time we were waiting on the software to be quite ready for us. And so this is kind of what we asked the template we asked them to use, make sure to identify, the goal it's related to, the pillar it's related to, who all is going to be involved, and then what's your timeline do you think on it? So that's that. So the accountability. This is where the software comes into play. Dan had worked with a team that had grown an in-house system in Nebraska that he thought was really great and really user-friendly and had gotten a lot of positive feedback from people on campus there. So he was like, well, I know those people. Let's see if they're ready to develop it for anyone else. So they were, they got there and they were excited for the opportunity. And we are that someone else. So I will show you Gorilla Plan here in a second. And it is still updated frequently. They are amazing that they want my feedback that I'm seeing myself and that I'm getting from others on campus. They've made a lot of updates already based on that feedback. I'm in there.
You log in or do you want to log in?
Let me try.
Okay.
My silly fingers on a different keyboard didn't like me a minute ago, but let me try again. And I kept forgetting to use that button, even though I always tell people, you gotta use that button. They did set it up as single sign-on for us so that it's the same sign-on for everyone. And our team did that. Eric back there and Jeff were instrumental in making sure that could happen.
It had a password in there, so you might have to back out.
Oh, no, it's still gonna be blocked. Do you mind showing yours? Okay.
I don't have as much access as this girl.
Yeah, sorry.
But you guys can see.
So how it all started, so this company, which they are a company now, so if anyone else is ever interested in such a model, they will be looking for new clients soon, if not already. They have been amazing, and what they've created for us is the template of this system, right? And then my responsibility has been to go in and build Pitt State into it, basically. So I am the administrator of the system. I'm the only one that has that particular access point. And I built in our framework, which is basically our org chart, for lack of a better way of saying that, the different divisions that would need to report. And then we decided, of course, it's a licensing. And so how many users do you want to be able to do what? And there's different steps of that. We ended up with 6 people that could go in and actually had to input all of the initiatives for their divisions, their areas. And then there are 40, which is basically the leadership team that can go in and update those initiatives as we get each quarter, so we make it to each quarter. The great thing I like about it though, is that everyone on campus has access to this. And again, through their single sign-on, we have some people who hate every new system and having to have new passwords and whatever. And so that was really important to us. So thank you again, IT, for making that happen. They wanted to be able to just get in the way that they're used to getting in. And some people aren't as computer savvy across campus. And we just wanted everyone to be able to see that they had access. So everyone on campus has the only access to it, which is really nice. So thank you for logging in. So this is what it looks like. This is the dashboard. And there is just a lot of information. You can see it has our 10 goals. We ended up with 65 strategies. And it's logged into University Affairs right now. I'm going to put it back on Pitt State. So you can do that. And it obviously changes to show we have 347 initiatives from the campus. That's a lot. What we do have too is some overlap between areas. So there are several things within University Affairs that I am ultimately responsible for, but actually so is someone else, like Angela for IT, depending on different projects. We didn't limit that this time around because we wanted people to get into the system and get their hands on it and play with it. So we might do a little bit more cleaning up of that in future rounds, but for this time, it wasn't as important to us. But then it shows you how many we've got completed so far and where we're at with our progress so far. And then this will show you the same thing, what's in progress, what's not started, which is always something you want to delve into and be like, well, why at this point are we not started? What's completed and what's on hold.
I was going to mention too, some are initiatives, some are 12 months and some are 24 months, but none are past 24 months at this point. So that kind of gives you an idea that some maybe haven't started because it's not time for them to start.
Absolutely, yes.
So, but it's also gives you an idea at that kind of 50% mark where we are. That's not bad.
No, it's really not. And this is built with that 2-year cycle in mind. So obviously right now we're still going to be finishing out that, well, it lists the same there, never mind, but it does show the 2 years of the 24 and 25 for fiscal year on there. But what I love about this dashboard is so you can go back and if I want to pick University Affairs, it will update and obviously just show what's related to there too. So it's really handy look at information. I'll go back to the full university scope. And Angela, since she falls within University Affairs, has been able to mark that as her default. So that's why it automatically went there. For me, it automatically always goes to the whole campus because that's kind of what I'm looking at right now when I want to look at that information. But so then it will show that this is something they just added, that it shows progress based on quarter. Yeah, and keep me on time. And so that's really cool. So we can see, obviously, for our fourth quarter, we haven't encouraged people to put anything in yet, but we will soon. But they've been great about making sure to get stuff in. The places you see zeros are because their overall scope, like student affairs, didn't have specific things, but everything under student affairs did. And so that's why that looks like that. But it's just a really quick, easy way to start seeing where are we missing anything? Where are we not keeping up with certain things? And we've told everyone it's not a gotcha. It's not meant to be a system to be like, oh my gosh, look at you people. It's a system to help ourselves, to be able to keep track of what we said we wanted to do. And then if there are some things that we eventually figure out, no, we don't want to do that, there's different opportunities to either abandon that goal or that initiative, to put it on hold. And there's always a comment section. I'll show you that. So you can keep yourself reminded, or whoever follows you in your place, why did we do that? There's a history there. So definitely meant to just be informational. And then again, it breaks down each goal area and the strategies within those goals by area of campus. And then it will just list all initiatives for that area. And one nice thing is they've added this recently, and I think I'm not entirely sure it's working correctly at the moment. I was looking at that this morning. I was like, I don't think some of that's right, but you can hover over it and see that what that particular initiative identifies with, which goal and strategy, who created it. And then there's a progress, so you can see where that's at in the comments. Okay. So I'll just take you into that comments view. So this is what it looks like where the initiative has actually been built in. And this is where you can select whether it's in progress, and that drop down's not going to work at the moment, but that's where you can say abandon this. Some will say not started yet. There's a variety of different things, and we got to pick all of those things. I mean, it's all coded. Down to the color that's right next to it were the things that I needed to pick to put in there. So it's like in progress, yellow, like that could be, we're not quite to green. It's not quite completed yet, but so it looks different kind of for everyone. But here is then your time frame, the percentage that you're expected to reach by the time you say that this goal is met, which would obviously be 100. But within that time frame. So this one is expected to be done this fiscal year, and then which K-4 pillars that relates to. Then you can also see the users that are on here, and that's just the in-house way of basically allowing them access to get into there and see it and to track the progress. And then they just break it down for you, and you can choose whether you're on track, whether you're off track. You can assign tasks to people, and that is something we haven't really delved into yet. Again, first year, just kind of wanted to get everybody into it and understanding the system and the flow. I think next year we might utilize that function a little bit more, but it's working really well even without it. But the developers said some people really love that, so they wanted that in there. And then comments, you can see I've just been making quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 comments of the progress, but that's how you see where you're at. And then file uploads, which there's nothing in there for this one, but you have that capability to add anything in as supporting that you wanted to. So it's pretty cool that way. Let's see what so this is a different view for me because I'm not used to, I do have other things. So this is that framework I was talking about. And as I went to different groups on campus, because after we developed this, I went to all of our constituent group meetings to kind of show them this, because people get a little bit nervous about new software, and especially if they do think it's like monitoring, or keeping track of them or whatever. So I wanted to soften that a little bit and explain a little bit about it and just show them so that they could go back and tell their colleagues, hey, this is cool, like go check this out. Who knows if they did. But there I can tell users, because once someone has logged in with their single sign-on, it creates a users list. So I can see on there kind of how many from campus we're getting involved, which is really cool to be able to see. But I told everyone, I'm like, if anything is wrong on this screen, you need to tell me, because this was all me and we can fix it. So but so far I think we're in good shape. But it just drops down. And again, it shows the progress of anything that might be completed and how many there are. I know we have some completed those, so curious about that. Oh, here we go.
We should.
Angela.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then plan. And so this is kind of a breakdown of if Angela wanted to go in and see by goal what initiatives they have. Do you care if I pick on you? If I just go to yours? Okay. Oh, there we go. So it comes up and this is just, it lists all of the different strategies under each goal, no matter what, but it will give you this little icon over here. Or what are those called? Badge, something, yeah, to show you that you have something under that particular strategy. So then when you look at it, here you go. And you can click on it again. And this just is a different way of getting to the same information that's kind of on the dashboard, but it's more organized by your specific area. And then again, you can look at anything. The other cool thing is that you can add it to a watch list. And I'll show you what that means in a second, but this is where you would do that. So each goal would pop up like that, where you would showcase how many initiatives you have under that goal. So then this is also another tool to show you what you are not only your own, but then what else you have been assigned to as a collaborator. So as a user on that goal. So another kind of just quick and easy way to see, you can see that I added Angela with me for annual evaluation system. And we're working on that. And then you can see that institutional equity and Title IX has added Angela as user for those things. And then here's the IT ones. So it's nice that it breaks it down by what area is asking you to be involved and what that content was and keep it all in one place. And then that watch list that I mentioned is here. So if I had clicked that watch list for that initiative, it would now appear on here. And what that does is just give you a really easy way to keep track of certain things, whatever you want that to be. So if there are certain things as an administrator that you're concerned about, for us as a campus view, there might be some initiatives that were just really important to us or that we have concerns about and want to monitor. This would be an easy way to keep track of what those were and check in on those. So that's what that function is built for. And the developers, again, were really great because not everyone had that function. And when I started showing it to people, they were like, need that. Can I have that too? And so they were able to build that in and just make sure that all the collaborators had that. So that's pretty cool. So that's pretty much all of your tabs. I'm sorry I messed that up. And this might be good to not be able to show it to you. It has a very large reporting function, and that is the point where I need to learn more at this point. And so I have some meetings on the books with the developers to start seeing, but they basically have everything in this system listed out in columns, and you can have the choice of looking at whatever you want to look at and sorting it however you want to sort it, exporting it to Excel, saving how you've set it up so you can just go back to those searches over and over without rebuilding them. All the things you would want from a reporting system to be able to pull the data from here, which is our goal, right? To be able to keep track of that. Historically, we always had a strategic plan, obviously, but without having a software to help keep track of it, it kind of sat. And I don't know if you guys have a similar experience on your campuses. You know, a strategic plan on paper is as much as you make it to be and however often it's referenced and gone back to. But this made it kind of a living document that we can all keep track of and we can all kind of encourage each other on about. So we're excited about it. But we're just getting ready to finish out, obviously, the fiscal year for year one for this. So we actually got the system in our hands, I think, in late October. So again, it's just been kind of a work in progress and hoping to have more time over the summer to start delving into the functions that I haven't yet, but it's a pretty cool opportunity for us.
So you've seen this product and the name of the company is?
Oh my gosh.
They've changed their name.
They have.
It
was Uniplan.
Originally it was Uniplan, like UNE, like University of Nebraska.
Yes, I think you put it in your
Let's
slides.
see, it might be in here. They've changed their name. They have a much
Vision
more
Sync.
Vision Sync. Yeah, they have a much
Sorry.
more techie name
Yeah.
now. There it is, Vision Sync.
Because they literally developed themselves into this company because they were doing this for us and they realized that other people might want this product too. So this has been a work in progress for them too, as far as them trying to figure out what the heck do we need to do to develop this? Because I think my understanding is it was one person within their IT department, but then a lot of students that developed this. And so the person I've been dealing with, I think he's just a few years out of university at this point, and pretty awesome opportunity. But now he's seen, how do you make this into a company? And it's just been a whole experience to watch him go through too, which has been really cool.
And I would say our experience with them, and Jeff and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they listen. I think Jaime would say that too. They do listen. They aren't, they don't think they've got all the answers. They're willing to hear our suggestions and recommendations. And that's been awesome for us as being an early adopter for them, because we've been able to kind of create this product that we know we needed. And I've heard Dan say many times, if I want to know where we are on KBOR pillar number 2. I want to be able to pull up a report and see where we are as a university on X date. We can do that now. And that's really exciting. Before that would have taken a big effort. That would have taken an all call to, decision makers across campus to write a report and send it in, and then putting that report together and making sure it was beautiful for KBOR. And I'm sure Jaime had to deal with a lot of that before, but now it's at her fingertips, is at his fingertips, and they can take that report and do with it what they need to for KBOR. So we wanted to share this today and just kind of share our journey and kind of this unique perspective of how Dan brought the strategic planning to our campus. Some of you may have experienced something similar. I personally haven't, for a campus or a institution strategic plan that was very different and enlightening. So we wanted to share our experience. There's been a few stumbles, but nothing major. It's just been a really pleasant experience and a great learning experience. So with that, what questions might you guys have of us? Yes.
So I like how you did the dots to get initial alignment. Okay, so the question is, once you set your baseline for initiatives, as projects go along, people get smarter. And so those initiatives change, the scope gets bigger, or you got phase 2. How do you manage follow-ups for an initiative as compared to what you have on the rest of your plate?
So the system allows you to edit whatever you want to.
Yeah, but how, as an institution, how do you regain alignment? Because there might be stakeholders that go, hey, what about my stuff? And then somebody else who, if you got a change initiative, is going, but we haven't finished this because they got smarter as they went along. So how do you regain alignment on what you're putting your effort towards?
I think if it is at the initiative level, I think it goes back to our cabinet and communicating there and making sure everyone's on the same page that this is the change we need to make. And then them relaying it down to their areas within campus.
And sometimes we've had a project management planning, IT project management governance group in place for a long time. And I can tell you that cabinet group they want to do everything campus wants to do for the most part, if it aligns with the mission, but they're also not afraid to say, we can't do it. And so we have had a history of some of that at our university of saying, we have to keep the scope to this, or we can't do it. We have a lot of changes going on right now with the new president. We have a lot of stuff going on. I will say, and I know Jeff's nodding back there, we're implementing a new student system right now, which is probably the biggest thing any of us will do in our careers, I would guess, the most complex thing. At the same time, we're doing a lot of other really new, unique things. We've been given the opportunity to backfill and hire a development firm that we've never been able to do in the past. We've just been able to do that in the last 3 or 4 years. So we've been able to work with that cabinet group to talk through those things. And in the end, we've always said to them, you need to prioritize our work so that it aligns with the university mission and vision. And it has worked well. There's been some hard calls, and there's also been some real stretching of our resources. I mean, I think we would all say that, right? all of our department back there going, yes. And you guys feel it too. Every institution does. So it is a really give and take, almost a negotiation at times for that kind of stuff. Everyone faces it. We're no different. This system and the process that we use does not change that. That's an issue that is going to arise no matter.
Yeah, and you're exactly right about that. And we've had several things that have already needed to change and flux as we go. And depending on whose initiative that was, or who all was involved in that. We just make sure we're really communicating on that and trying to make sure everyone is on the same page and has the buy-in from that group too.
Good question. Yes.
So, Jamie, I'm gonna fixate on a four-letter word that you used during the
Uh-oh.
presentation. So pause there just to.
Is it fail?
I know, right?
So you said, I think halfway through time, so like this whole idea of strategic planning is something that you don't stumble into. There needs to be intentionality, there needs to be time set aside, process, commitment, follow through, like all those things need to come into play. I don't know, either from your perspective, Jamie, how some of that came to be, and then Angela, maybe from your perspective, talk about resources, clearing the path of the way to give people the time and space and priority for some of that stuff. So if either of you have any recommendations for you.
Yeah, I don't know that we're the best model. Dan, if any of you have gotten the opportunity to meet Dan, he's a little bit of a different kind of president, and we are moving and shaking. And I don't think he sleeps really. And so, you know, his ability to keep going and his enthusiasm for turning some things around and facing the challenges of higher ed at a little faster clip than we're used to. He seems tireless on that, but the rest of us do get a little bit tired. So I don't know that it is that we are the best method, but for me, it is honestly, I've just personally been able to divvy up my time the way I need to, because I am the sole person that built this system for Pitt State. And that's why I'm saying to you, I'm hoping this summer to get into more of the reporting. I haven't been able to just, if that was my sole job, to just sit down and focus on this program and say, oh my gosh, this is just, I want to delve into this. The good news for me is that I'm actually getting ready to switch roles to do specifically strategic planning and internal auditing. So that's where I say this summer, that transition's happening this summer. And I'm hopeful to be able to have a few less meetings on the book than my days usually look like right now, to be able to account for that. So that's part of it, is figuring out people resources, and maybe where we had strategic planning under my position as it stands right now wasn't the best fit to be able to really utilize it fully. So trying to accommodate that for sure. And it was a heavy load on those 6 people that we called them division administrators, but they were the 6 that put everything into the system for their division initiatives. It was a heavy load for them. And they're all busy people. So it was just a matter of, we created timelines that we thought were fair and said, hey, look, we need you to get this into the system by the end of December. And then everyone else is going to have to play catch up as far as reporting up to that point, just so we have a record in the system. And then from there on, it should be easier. So that's where we're at now.
And I would just say, from a leadership approach, and Pitt State's a smaller institution. We all know everyone on our campus for the most part. The approach has been and still is with Dan, very negotiable timelines and scope. Everybody wants what's best for the university, what's best for our students, and he listens. If I say, Dan, we can't do that in that timeline, or Dan, we need $100,000 more to do that, and here's why, he really does listen. And he's not, and that kind of leadership has really trickled across our campus with him taking that approach. He's a very kind, nice guy that still gets stuff done. And that doesn't always happen, right? With those kind of people that are kind and nice, they sometimes don't always get things done, but he's found a way to do that. And I really think part of that is creativity. I would say we're probably the most creative as a campus in my 14 years than we've ever been. So from a resource perspective, we've been able to be very creative, and he's listened. And our CFO, Doug Ball, has listened when we've said we need help, and they've been creative in helping us find money. Don't get me wrong, we're all really busy and stressed and all those things that you guys are too, but we have felt like we've been heard. I feel I don't know, Jeff, you've been in some of those meetings where we've said, help.
It's definitely been, doing a lot of implementations where, I think I made the comment before where, usually you're implementing to SIS, and that is the project. And, in the last 6 to 12 months, I think it's become a project.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things like that. But I would agree. And I also think, the updates, the way that those happen quarterly, in charge of the initiatives or in charge of updating their initiatives. And they reach out to the folks that are doing the work to get the update of where that's at. And it's really been a pretty quick, painless process. I've been on the bottom end of that rung where I've been asked, okay, where are we at on this initiative, this relates, what are the next steps, so the comments can be accurate for where the initiative's at, and then that just kind of all flows upward. And it's all related, and like Jamie said, and Angela, you know, relating that to the K-4 pillars was one of the things that was really attractive to this, because it was a Herculean effort to gather all that data before
Yeah.
whenever K-4 would knock on the door and say, hey, we need this from you. And it was like, all right, we gotta go figure out where all that information's at, gather it all together. And now it's just being updated quarterly, and it becomes less of a burden. You know, from my perspective, I don't know about people up above, but it's a few minutes a quarter that I've got to, you know, answer some questions about an initiative, and then that really allows all that data to be up to date and accurate.
And it also lights a fire every quarter, right? Like, I mean, you know, making sure that we're updating those initiatives every quarter makes us reflect on where are we really on this? Do we need to pivot? Those types of things. I think that that's been a much, we always did ours every 6 months in IT just because we felt like that was good, but a quarter is so much better. But I don't think the rest of campus did every 6
I would
months.
say you
So
were, I think, alone on that for the most part, but.
does that answer your question?
And I think buy-in too. I mean, you know, when you feel that something is gonna help you down the road, it is easier to be like, okay, I'm just gonna get through this harder part of finding the time to get all this input into the system. So those users who do have more time to put in, they are already seeing how it's helping them. To keep track and to keep up to date, and not thinking like, well, God, I don't know, what do we do in September? Like trying to come back at year end to think about their update. They just have it all there. And so we're already seeing the payoff for it, but they could vision it too. And we had the buy-in for that group moving forward. So that helps.
Awesome. I think we're at time unless there's any other burning questions.
One question.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier about collecting people's thoughts on where you should go in the submission that fail word.
Mhm.
What did they not, I mean, I don't know if I caught exactly where the fail word was that we tried to avoid putting it.
I think it was one of our design principles, if I remember right, and it was something about we are not afraid to fail.
Okay.
And basically saying that we as a culture want to try things. We want to be encouraged and supported to try and be creative, because again, Dan's a very creative thinker, and it's not necessarily the type of culture we've super been used to on campus. And so he's trying to get people pulled out of the box that they may have put themselves in over the years and say, hey, collaborate, come up with this idea and work with this person. And it might not come to anything, but it's worth checking out, and maybe it leads to something else, right? And yes, none of us have time to just waste on things. But if you think it's valid and you think it's going to help something, now's the time, let's do it. So for him, he was saying, let's not be afraid to fail. Let's try this. And they were like, fail.
And we actually used the word fail in one of these design principles. And people were like, we can use that word.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting because it became a real sticking point for people. And we ended up changing it to
I was
a
gonna say,
different word.
I think it's in the innovation.
But yes, it was like 18 town halls, and that just came up over and, you know, and there were many adjustments to
Yeah.
get the wording, how campus liked it and felt comfortable.
And even the mission, I mean, I think Dan had narrowed it down in his mind to our mission is to make life better. And it was through one of the town halls that someone said, well, can we add through education? Because that's really what we're doing here, right? And so it was like, cool. So that changed our entire mission statement, is that feedback. So definitely took feedback seriously.
Lots of Post-its.
So many Post-its, you guys.
Okay, I think that it. I'm getting the.